All the focus and heat is on Mike Tomlin. Last playoff, go through the Tomlin numbers of disappointment.
All right, so they lose 4 straight to end the year, right? Late in the year, they lost the 4 games, and then so they play themselves out of the division. They were in control of the AFC North, and they play themselves into a road game against Baltimore. He's lost 6 straight playoff games. The record is 7 by Marvin Lewis. He is one of 3 coaches to not win a playoff game for 8 seasons in over 8 years. The only other 2 are Marvin Lewis and Jim Mora, and they were both were eventually fired. Yeah, but the Steelers they operate under a different way, and I still think it's below 50% they fire him because they just don't do that. I think any other organization might, but the Steelers. In 4 of their last 6 playoff games, they've trailed by 21 at the half. 21-zip here, 21-zip last year, 21-7 in 2021, 35-10 in 2020, 21-zip in 2017. But it's not Tomlin's career is not just these 8 years. You can't break it down like that. You've got to give more. There's a lot more context to his career. Like a lot of these teams that are in the playoffs weren't really playoff teams. He has to get credit for getting them to the playoffs, and then they get to the playoffs, and they're either overmatched, undermanned, or unprepared.
So there are very rare instances where the sports world gives you as a host an absolute free gift, and that is what the sports world is doing for me. With this Mike Tomlin argument, everybody has the whole thing wrong. It's amazing. And the only person that I've seen get it right is one Desmond Bryant, number 88. Mike Tomlin, he should be celebrated for this year. I have not seen the name Russell Wilson attached to all this ire and rage over the past 48 hours. Haven't seen it. You tell me that the Pittsburgh Steelers are making the playoffs with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields? I'm throwing you a parade. You know who the best, most genius PR team is in the entire sports world? The man doing it for Omar Khan. Does anybody know anyone know who Omar Khan is?
Shad's son?
Not Shad's son. Peyton,
he's the Steelers GM, right?
He is the general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And somehow, some way, this man has dodged all of the turmoil. He's dodged all of the fire. He got out of California first. And Mike Tomlin is there, left to hold all of it. Mike Tomlin is sitting in the house that's burning to the ground. Omar Khan and the Pittsburgh Steelers front office is to blame, in my opinion, for the Pittsburgh Steelers getting eliminated out of all these postseasons. For 5 straight years, you have not had a quarterback. 5. Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, and the dead corpse of Ben Roethlisberger's right arm. We all knew that Ben was cooked for the final 2 years at least. And we're killing Mike Tomlin? Now, if Mike Tomlin has a Belichick say and control personnel, he could get criticized for that. But until
I have no idea what his...
Right.
I don't know. I can ask my guys at Pittsburgh. I have no idea.
Ask them. Until I find that out, the Mike Tomlin has to be fired, Mike Tomlin has got to go sentiment is one of the dumbest, most uninformed sports takes that I've seen in a very, very long time. Russell Wilson's the quarterback. What did you expect? Are you kidding me? Justin Fields was brought in. At the beginning of the year, I was making fun of all these first fake shows. Why are you giving so much time to the Pittsburgh Steelers? They're a non-factor.
Unlimited.
They're boring. Why are we dedicating this? Because they're a blue blood? That's why. It's the Packers and the Steelers, just like the New York Knicks, got a lot of the basketball discussion. Look at the quarterback. And we're going crazy over Tomlin. That is my take, and the entire sports world seems to be missing it.
Look, it's
5 years, and they made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs in several of those.
In several of those.
Yeah, it's look, they and here's the thing, because they beat Baltimore during the regular season. You know, they beat them. I think what I've come to figure out with Tomlin is that I think he's the arguably the greatest motivator we've ever seen. He has to be in order to get these teams to the playoffs. And then when you get to the playoffs, that motivational advantage is gone because every team is motivated in the postseason. They're all equally motivated in the postseason. And now the flaws of the roster show up. And that's what's happened. If you're Pittsburgh, it's a couple of things. His career was very front-loaded. The knock on him is that he won with Cowers players. He took over in 2007, and they win the title in 2008. So I asked my buddy from Pittsburgh, and he already responded. I said, how much personnel control does he have? He goes, an S-ton. Him and Omar are at worst equals, and more than likely Mike dictates to Omar on most decisions. When it comes to any of significant weight, he has the final say.
Yeah.
Makes sense. He's the made guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he is. He's the...
But Roethlisberger was done in 2018.
Oh, yeah.
He was cooked.
He was done... Yeah.
2019, he played in 2 games, and then they had, remember that lucky season where we all knew that they
10
were...
or 11-0 to start.
He had 33-10, touchdown to picks. That looks good. The QBR was a 52. And then we saw... I mean, we talked about how awful and unwatchable the Steelers' offense was. It was nothing but screens and horizontal passes and swing passes. Like, I need to know who was responsible for not getting the quarterback there. And maybe Mike Tomlin doesn't need personnel control.
Well, the reason they haven't gotten the quarterback is because he doesn't ever really lose.
Yeah.
You've really got to stink to get a quarterback. Like, that's your goal.
They have a 9-8 pick at best.
Right. What they really need is for Tomlin to get Sean Payton and get suspended for a year. So they stink. And they fall off and they draft the quarterback high. But I mean, look, he's a really good football coach. I wonder how.
But Antonio Brown, by the way, I had to follow Antonio Brown this weekend.
You didn't follow him before?
No.
Oh, my God.
The stuff he's putting out.
It's so over the top.
He did the slow progression from Mike Tomlin to Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
Booger
McFarland said he subtweeted. It was a very subtweet. It said, sometimes the voice of the room just gets old and stale. That very well may be what it is. I mean, there's the parallels of McCarthy and Sean Payton and Mike Tomlin's careers are they're running neck and neck. They all won their titles back to back to back. 08, 09, 2010. Right there, all 3. And then they've, steadily they've both gone to conference championship games since. And they've just steadily kind of flattened out.
So the idea from Jimmy Johnson on Fox was for the Steelers, disgruntled fan base, Cowboys, disgruntled fan base, to just make a swap.
I've got no inside information, but, things are stale in Pittsburgh. Things are stale in Dallas. And just food for thought. How about a coaching swap? Mike McCarthy's a Pittsburgh guy. Let him go to Pittsburgh, let Mike Tomlin go to Dallas. Both franchises would be excited.
But then the only problem is, you said they're both stale, but one continues to make the playoffs and the other one doesn't. That's not stale.
Hey, I'll tell you,
one's having more
playoffs.
Success.
So that's Strahan taking a shot at the Cowboys. If we set up because...
well, hang on. But that's also not really true. Like, the Cowboys continue to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Strahan just has to take his little giant shot. So Chris Mack in Pittsburgh, host that we had on, sent us this, and then the audio and video came out. We should set up a dual city poll. They retweet it there. We retweet it here. Would you all be down for that? And McCarthy-Tomlin swap. I believe the Metroplex would instantly sign up for it. I think Steeler fans, I'd be curious to see, are they so sick of Tomlin that they would want Pittsburgh Mike to go back home?
They are sick of Tomlin.
Because from a national perspective, I don't know about right now, I think people would view that as a win for the Cowboys in that trade. Now, you just did a segment a couple weeks ago that they're basically exactly the same guy.
They are. They are. Their resumes are in pretty much the same exact thing. Same with Sean Payton. I don't think Mike Tomlin and my buddy's from Pittsburgh, he's like, those two would not work together, Jerry and Tomlin. But if you're looking for a unique coaching advantage, right, you're not going to get it.
Well, the coaching advantage, I don't need you to be an X's and O's genius. The biggest thing for me around here was to improve the culture. That's the number one thing. I like that Mike McCarthy is liked. I don't know that he's feared. That's my opinion. The Cowboys are too loose.
I think the Cowboys culture, I don't know that it's going to change. I think their culture's toxic, not because of the coach. I don't know that if you bring Mike Tomlin in here, I don't think Mike Tomlin is given the same ability.
Okay, but to Bobby's text, and Bobby was ranting about this while I was asleep last night with you guys. What do you do then? Bobby's point is you can keep saying it's not the coach, doesn't matter. Well, okay, then you don't do anything. You have to operate around things that are realities that you're stuck with in life. Jerry ain't going nowhere. Steven ain't going nowhere. So you have to do something around it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that just getting a culture guy, I don't know that works here. I don't know that works.
So what is your solution?
Honestly, I have no idea. I really don't know. I don't honestly, I don't think there's anything you can do. You have to do, like, the only time this team won with Jerry is they made a trade that would never be made again. They got a quarterback that they took pick number one, and they had a coach that knew every player he was drafting. And they had a run. They had a 4-year run. Like, other than that, it's been the same thing. It's been the same story. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I think the answer, and I don't want this type of coach. I don't like these I'm smarter than the room kind of guys. I think that's kind of what you probably have to have here. You have to have a coach that is such a unique, unicorn from a play calling X's and O's standpoint to overcome everything else.
The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reports Steelers don't plan to move on from Mike Tomlin despite another one-and-done postseason. And Florio was talking about trading for coaches anyway.
Yeah.
He says you can't trade a coach for a coach.
Yeah, I don't know what the rule is in the NFL. It looks like
it's a fun fantasy hypothetical from Jimmy, but it's more so saying, all right, they get rid of Mike Tomlin, let McCarthy walk, and just go to each other's city.
Yeah, it's happened. I mean, you've traded picks for coaches. It's happened 8 times where you've traded picks for coaches in the NFL, dating all the way back to Don Shula, going from Baltimore to Miami. I mean, it goes back a long ways.